Welcome to the course 25 Must-Know Formulas and Functions in Microsoft Excel. My name is Tom Fragale and I'm a Microsoft Certified Trainer. So if you have the full course, the Excel file that I'll be using should be part of the course, and this PowerPoint that I'm using should be part of the course as well. So let's get right into it. So I'm going to minimize PowerPoint, and we're going to go into Excel. And I'm going to open up the workbook that comes with the course. So in my case, it's going to be in my desktop folder. So I'll pick on Open and then Browse. And mine's going to be on my desktop. And there's the student file. By the way, I try to make my mouse a little bit bigger for you so you can find my mouse. Also, sometimes during the class, I'll make my mouse do this, so you can find my mouse this way. So I'm going to go to a different sheet. This particular workbook has many, many sheets. So I'm going to right-click on this arrow at the bottom, right-click, and then you see a list of all the sheets. They're not in alphabetical order. They're in the order they appear in the workbook. So I'm going to scroll back up, and we'll start with a sheet that's called AutoSum, Relative, and Absolute. So the sheet is called AutoSum, Relative, and Absolute. And I'll click OK. So let's start off with the AutoSum. Just in case you don't know about it, it's very, very important. It's going to be used all the time. So you can see in column C, obviously I want to have a column total. So I'm going to click on cell C11. Now this could be a big long column all the way down. So you click at the bottom of the column. So you click on the bottom of the column, and there's a couple places you can find the AutoSum. The classic place used to be under the Home menu, Home, and then here's the AutoSum icon over here. But also now it can be found under the Formulas menu. So I'll pick in the Formulas menu up at the top, and then we have the AutoSum here. And then typically it'll put the right formula in there for you. It says equal sum C4 through C10, which is correct. So usually the AutoSum will put the proper formula in there for you. Now later on, I'll do another example of the AutoSum where it doesn't pick the proper range, and then I'll show you what to do about that. So, by the way, when you click on the pull down for the AutoSum, then you can get other calculations like sum, average, count, minimum, and maximum. Now, the next tip I want to show you is something that's called a relative formula. So a relative formula is going to help you build your spreadsheet a lot quicker. So I'm going to go to cell D4. Let's say the February column is going to be a 10% increase over January. So, of course, all formulas start with the equal sign. I'm going to click on cell C4, and I'll use the asterisk for multiplication, and I'll type in 1.1. So it says equals C4 times 1.1. And then we have a 10% increase. Now, I want to copy that formula all the way down the column. So I'm going to click on that cell, follow my mouse. I'm going to move my mouse to the corner of that cell and get the black cross. You have to be right on the corner of the cell to get the black cross. That's called the speed fill or the autofill. I can drag it to the right or I can drag it down. So I'm going to drag it down. Let's see what happened. The number's filled in, but let's see what happened to the formula. So the first one says C4 times 1.1. That's the one I typed in. The next one down says C5 times 1.1. The next one down says C6 times 1.1. So when I clicked in the cell and then got the black cross and dragged it down, it copied the formula, but it changed each one relative to that formula. It's called a relative formula. So when you see most people's larger spreadsheets, it's hardly ever the case where you type in each formula one by one. Whenever you can, you do that. You type in the top formula, you get the black cross. By the way, we can also drag it down, which we'll do in a couple minutes, or we can drag it across, and then I'm going to drag it down, and then each one change relative to that cell. It's called a relative formula. Once you learn that, you're going to use it over and over again. So what if March is going to have a 10% increase over February and April will have a 10% increase over March? Watch what I'll do. I'm going to highlight the numbers in the February column. I'll get the black cross and drag it over to the July column. And now there's all filled in. And they're all relative formulas. So the next one over says D4 times 1.1. Here we have E4 and F4. Those are all relative formulas. Like I said, once you learn that, you're going to use it over and over again. So let's click on this cell. Before we did it with the AutoSum, and it says sum C4 through C10. So I'll get the black cross and drag it over to the right. Each of those filled in. So the next one over says sum D4 through D10. The next one over says sum E4 through E10. So those are relative formulas. Now let's do another AutoSum. So I'm going to go to cell J4. And again, I'll pick on the AutoSum over here. And then typically it puts the right formula in there for you. I'm going to hit the Enter key. Good. Now let's do another relative formula. I'm going to get the black cross and drag it down to row 11. And each of them filled in. This one says sum C5 through I5 and C6 through I6 and so on. So there you see the relative formulas. Now let's do another example of the AutoSum, but this time it's not going to have the correct range. So I'll tell you what to do. I'm going to come over here. And I'm actually going to, well, why don't we insert a column at column K? I'm going to right click on column K and I'll pick on insert. So here I'll have the average. So watch my mouse. This time I'm going to click on the pull down for the AutoSum and I'll pick on the word average. If you look closely, it did not pick the proper range that time. It says C4 through J4. But if I included J4 in the average, the number would not be correct. So watch what I'll do. I'm going to highlight a different range. I'm going to highlight from C4 to I4. So usually the AutoSum picks the right range for you. But if not, you can highlight your own range. I'm going to hit the Enter key. Watch that one again. So I'm going to pick in the pull down for the AutoSum. I'll pick in the word average. It did not pick the proper range. So I'm going to highlight my own range. I'm going to go from C4 to I4. And then I'll hit the Enter key. Good. Now we'll copy it down using the relative formula. I'll get the black cross and drag it down. Each one of those changed. This one says average C5 to I5, right? So those are relative formulas. So let's go to the third point. The third big tip with formulas and functions, we're going to talk about the absolute reference. So let's go to cell L4 here, and I like to get the percent of total. So I'm going to take the total for that row and divide it by the grand total. Let's do it the normal way first. So I'll type in the equal sign, click on this cell, J4, divide it by the grand total, which is J11. So it says equals J4 divided by J11. I'm going to hit the Enter key. So it says 21.74%. Let's see what happens if we copy it down. We're going to get the black cross and drag it down to row 9. Now they say division by 0. Let's see what happened. You see there's still relative formulas. This one says J4 divided by J11. The next one down says J5 divided by J12. There's nothing in J12. So that's why it says division by 0. But I don't want to divide by J12. I want to divide by J11. The next one down is going even further away. It says J6 divided by J13. Except I don't want to divide by J13. I still want to divide by J11. So the absolute reference is going to be an important one to know about. I'm going to go ahead and click on cell L4 and follow my mouse. I'm going to type in a $sign before the J and a $sign before the 11. When we see the $signs in the formula, We are not talking about money right now. That makes it what we call an absolute reference, which means when we copy it down, that part of the formula is not going to change. It's going to remain constant or absolute, but you really have to say it. I'm going to hit the Enter key. Now, the dollar signs don't make a difference until you copy it down. So I'm going to click on that cell, get the black cross again, and drag it down. Now we have real numbers. Let's see what happens. The next one down says J5, but it's still dividing it by J11 because of the dollar signs. That's called an absolute reference. The next one down says J6, J7. Notice how they're all dividing it by J11, and that's the results of the dollar signs. That's called an absolute reference. Let's try another example of the absolute reference. So I'm going to go to this cell. The sales tax will be the total for that row times the tax rate. So I'll say equals, click on the total for that row, J4, times, I'm going to get the 7%, which is M2. Now that's the part of the formula I want to make an absolute reference. You can either type in the dollar signs, or a keyboard shortcut is to use the F4 function key on your keyboard. I'm going to press F4. And now that put the dollar signs in there for me. So you can either type in the dollar signs, or you can use the F4 function key, and that'll put the dollar signs in there for you. So I'm going to click on that cell and copy it down with the black cross. The next one down says J5, but it's still multiplying it by M2. That's called an absolute reference. The next one down says J6, and it's still multiplying it by M2. So the first part of that cell, first part of that formula is relative. This one says J7, J8, J9, but they're all multiplying it by M2 because of the dollar signs. So the second part of that formula is an absolute reference. Okay? So hopefully you got the idea of the AutoSum, which was tip number 1, the relative formulas, which was tip number 2, and the absolute formulas, which is tip number 3. The next thing I'd like to talk about is making formulas that will link your sheets together. So I'm going to go to a different sheet here. Oh, by the way, let me go back to those slides. The slide deck should come with the presentation if you bought the full course from my website. So here, when I made this slide, the AutoSum was under the Home menu. It's also under the Formulas menu. So I put on Home and then AutoSum over here. And then here is, it did the AutoSum, as you can see. Then here is where we did the relative formula. I said C4 times 1.1, and then we copied that one down with the black cross, as you can see in that cell. And we copied it down, as you can see. Those are all relative formulas, and then I copied it across using this slide. And those are all relative formulas. Then here we did another AutoSum. Let's go to slide 9. And then here is the absolute reference. Notice how it has the dollar sign before the J and the dollar sign before the 11, which makes it an absolute reference. Good. Now let me show you the next tip, which is going to be making formulas that will link the sheets together. I'm going to go back into Excel now, and I want to go to a different sheet. So I'm going to right click on this arrow, and I'll click on sheet 2014, and I'll click OK. So we have the company budget for 2014. If I go to the very next sheet, I see sheet 2015. Notice how there's a space for the 2014 totals here. So let me show you 2 ways to link your sheets together. In fact, over here, I'm going to type in 2014 grand total. Now I'm going to go back to sheet 2014. I'm going to highlight these numbers on the total row, and we'll just do a normal copy. Now I'm going to go to sheet 2015. We're not just going to do a paste. We'll do something that's called a paste special. So I'm going to right click on this cell. I'll click on the word paste special, and then you pick on the word paste link. So we do a paste special and then paste link. So notice the formula is pointing back to sheet 2014 in this case, cell 11. Whenever you see the exclamation point in the formula, it means you're referencing a different sheet. So we're referencing the 2014 sheet, cell C11. So if that other sheet changes, then this should change. Let's see if that's the case. I'm going to go back to sheet 2014. Now, if you see those blinking cells, just press the escape key on your keyboard. Good. So I'm going to change this number over here to say 20,000. Now that changed this total to 111,000. Let's see if it changed on sheet 2015. And it did. So we copied from one sheet, we went to another sheet, and we said paste special and then paste link. And now those sheets are linked together. So if I change one, it'll change the other. Now let me show you a second way to link your sheets together. This time we're going to start on the 2015 sheet, and as we're building the formula, we'll go back to the other sheet. So I'm going to type in the equal sign here. As I'm building the formula, I'll click on sheet 2014, and then I'll click on the grand total over here, which is J11. Now, I can keep on going and do more with that formula, but this will make the point that I'm trying to make. When I press the Enter key, it'll bring me back to sheet 2015, and we'll see this number. I'm going to hit the Enter key. And there's that number. Now, I'm going to click on the cell, and notice how it's pointing to the other sheet, cell J11. So that time, we started the formula on one sheet with the equal sign, and as we were building the formula, we clicked on cells on the other sheet. So that's how you can link your sheets together. So you can see the number says $1,053,075.98. So I'm going to, and this number says 111,000. So I'm going to click on sheet 2014. I'll change this total to say 18,000. So now the total for that column is 114,000, and the overall total is $1,081,537.49. Let's see if sheet 2015 has those. And it does. So there's two ways to link your sheets together. You can copy from one sheet and then go to another sheet and you say paste special and then paste link. Or you can start the formula on one sheet with the equal sign, and as you're building your formula, you can click on cells on another sheet. By the way, that's how you can link your workbooks together as well. I can copy from a workbook, go to another file, and then say paste special and then paste link. That'll link the two files together. Or you can start the file on one workbook, and then as you're building the formula, you can go to the other workbook. So that'll link your workbooks together as well. So now we're going to go to point number 5. Point number 5 is going to have a very popular function that's called an if function. So we'll start with an if, then in the next couple tips, I'll show you how to make the if more complicated. So let me go to a different sheet here. I'm going to right click on this arrow, and I'm going to scroll back up and find a sheet that's called sum if, count if, and average if. We're going to be on this sheet for a while. Sum if, count if, and average if, and I'll click OK. Good. So here we have the sales tax, and I'm going to go to cell G2. So let's just say if it says dinner in column F, then they'll get 0% sales tax. Otherwise, they'll get the 7%. Now you can type in the formula, but in this case, I'm going to use the formulas menu up at the top, formulas, and this one happens to be under the logical category. So I'll pick on logical, and I'll pick on if. All right. The logical test will be some kind of comparison. So I'm going to click on cell F2, type in equals. The word dinner here has to be in quotes because it's text. So when you're using these formulas, usually the text will be in quotes like that. And I mean the double quotes. So it says F2 equals dinner. Now it's either dinner or it's not. If it is dinner, then the value of true will kick in. And if it's not, then the value of false will kick in. So for the value of true, I'll type in 0. For the value of false, I'll type in 7 percent times the number for that row, which is E2. The logical test says F2 equals dinner. The value if true says 0. And the value if false says 7% times E2. I'm going to click OK. Now you can see the if formula over here. You can always type it in once you learn it, or we found it under the logical category of your functions. Now you can see how the formula is broken down. We have the logical part, the true part, and the false part. The different parts of the formulas are separated by the commas. So this one does say dinner, and that's why it says 0 there. I'm going to go ahead and copy it down with the black cross. Let me show you a shortcut, by the way. Of course, you can drag it down, but the shortcut is to double click on the black cross. If you double click, it goes all the way down. So I think that can save you a lot of time. Notice how the ones that say dinner are going to say 0 over here, but the ones that don't say dinner have a real number. Those will be 7% times the number for that row. By the way, those are all relative formulas. So, for example, this one down says F3 and E3. This one says F4 and E4. So those are all relative formulas. Now, I'm going to make that column look better. I'm going to highlight column G, and we'll make a currency format. It looks a whole lot better. Good. So that's the basic if. Now, let me show you ways to go further with the if. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to my channel. If you really liked it, please click on the thanks icon that looks like this below this video to support the channel. Please check out some more of my free videos. You can also subscribe to my mailing list and find out about my other services by going to www.pcwebinars.com. Thank you again.